Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. 1 year alcohol-free for Roseanne today. Congratulations, Roseanne.
Thank you, James.
Roseanne is one of our very valued alcohol-free lifestyle team members who was a former client. Let's just go back to the beginning. She was a prospect who turned into a client, who then turned into an enroller, who then turned into a coach.
That's right.
All in the space of 1 year, which is pretty amazing, Roseanne. Describe that journey for you.
Well, it's been maybe not obviously, it's obvious to me, but it's been one of the best years of my life, quite frankly, in terms of just achievements for me. So obviously, best years of your life in terms of children and main events. But, we're talking about a year of COVID, right? And COVID hit almost just a year ago, and that's what scared the Jesus into me into needing to do something, because I knew my life was either going to go in one direction or another. So I had made the decision to quit out of fear, which was pretty easy at first. And then I joined your alcohol-free or your 30-day no alcohol challenge, and I was involved with that. And I saw you posting about an alcohol-free weekend. What do you do? Is that a summit that you do, James?
Yeah. Annual World Summit, yeah.
I said, gosh, I've never had an alcohol-free weekend. I'm in. And so I signed up, and unfortunately it got canceled due to COVID, at least the in-person part did, and you did a virtual summit. And I was just so impressed that weekend with all the people in there and the positivity and the coaching. I was like, yeah, I want a part of this. So is that where you want me to pause so you can ask?
Yeah. So let's go back further. I want to just give a little bit of context. Maybe just describe who you are and where you live and what you did or what you do, just so the listener who's not familiar with you kind of knows who we're listening to. And then I've got some questions I'd like to ask you.
No, I think that's a great starting point, because knowing where I started is really valuable to knowing where I ended up. And I had been recently divorced, if you call recently, a couple of years. And just after a 30-year marriage, I had really struggled in my marriage and my self-confidence in my relationship prior to meeting my husband 30 plus years ago. I started my career as a CPA, and then I went into controller and treasury for a public company, mortgage banking. After we got sold out because we were part of a venture capital, investment. I did some consulting. I worked for a venture capitalist myself as a CFO, and then I was recruited out of there to work for a billionaire and manage his family office. So I was a pretty good go-getter, so to speak, and I just really enjoyed people. And I felt like I could contribute a lot to the places where I was. But over time, when I kind of retired early, was taking care of the kids, over time, my confidence really started to spiral down and my drinking spiraled up, and those two didn't work well together. And so I'd gotten to a place in my life after my divorce where I just felt like I didn't have any, you might be able to make me cry, but I didn't have any value anymore. I just didn't feel like I could contribute anything to the world. And I was just like, my life is over. I gave up my career. Yeah. So I was in a pretty bad space, and drinking didn't make that any better, because I used to drink in the house alone and just kind of drown my sorrows, I suppose, or self-medicate. Yeah.
So when you said that you lost your self-confidence and you felt alone, in hindsight, why do you think you felt that way? Like, why do you think you lost confidence? What were the triggers for that?
Quite frankly, that happened inside my marriage. It was definitely a relationship thing. I didn't have a very healthy relationship with my husband, and we didn't have great ways to communicate. And I dealt with that by drinking. We were partiers too. We both drank a lot, but I ended up using alcohol for absolutely the wrong reasons. Stress relief and numbing yourself, loneliness, those kind of things. Those are the things that really got me into the bad habits.
Mm. And you said you lost confidence. So what was the confidence that you lost? Because I can understand if you're having marital issues and you're feeling down because of that, that you described a situation where you just lost confidence in all areas of your life, professionally, health-wise, spiritually.
Yeah. Okay, so let me work backwards then, because let me tell you what I learned in Project 90, and then I can trace this back. So, and this is kind of the only way I can do it, because you don't know you're doing anything wrong when you're doing it. And it's only when you take the opportunity to look at something in a different fashion do you realize. So I don't know if I can explain why I lost self-confidence, but I can explain how I gained it. Does that make sense? So in terms of looking back at how I used to manage things, what I learned was that I need to look at situations as facts before I assign an emotion to them. I used to be a magnet for feeling everybody's pain or discomfort or anger. And I used to internalize it as if it was always directed at me. And what I learned was that people's reactions are not always because of something I've done. It's many times something that's within themselves. And so when I can separate myself from somebody else's reaction and use facts, I can respond differently. I used to just take it in and react. And does that help, James?
Yeah, it seems like now that you're responding versus reacting.
Yes.
So yeah.
And when you react, so if I take that back, when you react, you look at your reactions and you're like, what's wrong with me? Like, why do I do that? Why can't I be normal? You know, when you just start reacting to everything, you start feeling like you're going nuts. And you're like, why can't I control my emotions? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? So it starts to wear on your self-confidence. As it relates to drinking, and especially now that I'm an enrollment coach, I understand this. Self-confidence can be lost in the conversation that you have with yourself daily about why you can't put an end to something that you know that's not good for you. So in terms of drinking, you're like, well, hey, I don't feel good today, or that made me tired, or I shouldn't be doing this because it's bad for my health. And you go, okay, I'm not going to do that because I know it's bad for me and I know it's bad for my health. And, I know it's not solving any problems for me. And then you last till, I don't know, 5 o'clock or the next day or in 3 days. And then you drink again. And so you're letting yourself down. So that is definitely a part of self-confidence as well. So, yeah.
What's an example of when you were reacting during that tough time? What's something that maybe your husband said and you would react, or maybe someone else said something and you reacted in a certain way? Like, can you give us an example?
Oh, gosh, I can give you a really good example, and it came after my divorce, but it was residual stuff. It was like in a boardroom too. And I was dealing with somebody who actually did have a lot of issues with me, and I would react and call people and cry and like, why don't they like me? And, it's just kind of silly stuff now that I look in the rearview mirror. But now I can go, well, that was his insecurities and I was doing great stuff. And, it just affected every part of my life, even in the boardroom eventually. Just how I process responses, or instead of having confidence and focusing on the point that I wanted to get across, I'd be focused on their reaction towards me, which is irrelevant to the problem at hand, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did you receive feedback from people in your world that you were reacting, that you were doing something wrong, or was it all just you were internalizing it yourself in private?
No, I think over the last 10 years, I would receive feedback, especially from my kids, like at home. They're like, Mom, it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? And they would say, like, I don't understand why you're reacting. And sometimes they would, I don't know, in retrospect, they're like, Mom's crazy. It was that bad. It was that bad, my reactions. But that grew over time. There's a lot of personal reasons for that. But again, it was my lack of ability to process information in a different way and understand that everybody has their stuff to deal with. And to me, I just look at things differently, where I can recognize that people have their stuff and it's not always about me. And if I make a mistake, it's like, oh, well, like, I can laugh at it now. I don't have to take it as a mortal battle wound. It's just, I made a mistake.
And is that a realization that you've only been able to come to because of the clarity of the past year being alcohol-free, or were you coming to that realization towards the end of your drinking and now it's just been cemented during this alcohol-free year?
Being alcohol-free allowed me to get more clarity and less reactions. However, I've also learned skills in the last year that help me, because even though I can have clarity about a situation, it doesn't always mean that I know how to deal with the stress. So identifying is one thing, and not reacting like I used to, but then learning a different method to move forward. It's kind of a two-part process. Does that make sense? Remove the alcohol, get clarity, learn more, grow. So, yeah, but removing the alcohol is necessary as a first step.
Yeah, what happens, like that seemed like a 3 or 4 step process there, right? It was remove the alcohol was the first step. What was the second one?
Okay, move the alcohol, recognize
Yeah.
that you can
Get clear, I think maybe is get clear and then recognize and then act differently. Maybe. I'm not sure what you said, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that whatever comes after get alcohol free doesn't quite work or work as effectively if you're still drinking, right? The other part doesn't even begin to happen in many cases, right? Like it's removing the alcohol, getting clear, like you said, that's a necessary part of this process.
I was in counseling for 3 years and I didn't get any clarity. Well, I didn't get any change. I mean, I was relieved. I did. I had some PTSD things going on that that allowed me to change. But, I just kept needing to talk to somebody, counseling. But, and I was hiding from the counselor that I was really drinking that much. So when you're hiding that, it's just a secret. So it doesn't allow you to really make a lot of progress when you have secrets,
Did you feel like you were acting in many areas of your life?
I have said before that I felt like a fraud. So that doesn't necessarily mean that I was acting, because I felt like I was being me, as authentic as I could be, but I had secrets. And when you have secrets, it's mortifying because it's loneliness. Secrets create loneliness. And so, it's, and then you're lonely, so you drink more. It's just a vicious cycle, actually.
You mentioned your children. How many children do you have?
I have 4.
Okay. How old are they?
Oh, dear, James. I'm going to go round to 36, 29, 27, and 22. Got
it. So you mentioned before that when you were drinking and you were reacting, they were saying, geez, Mum, what's going on? Why are you reacting so much about this? So how has their feedback shifted over the past year when you compare it to whatever feedback you were receiving for many years leading up to a year ago?
As wow, Mom, like... You're so different. You're so, they see the healthier me. They see the confident me. They see a happy me, and they're proud. I mean, they're proud. They're, I think my oldest son said, wow, Mom, you're such an inspiration, because they watched me go through a really horrific divorce. I mean, nobody likes getting divorced, but after 30 years, it's a pretty difficult thing. And they saw me crushed with vodka in hand. And so to see this, this giant change is a big deal. Big deal.
And what's the change that they say they see in you?
I think it's the things that I just shared. It's the confidence. It's the clarity, it's the happiness. I think one of the biggest things I recognize, and you've said it, people in Project 90 have said it, my kids have said it, my friends have said it. I love to hear you laugh. I didn't have a lot of laughter in my life for 30 years. I mean, I did, but not like today. I mean, I have true joy and laughter. And I think that's the biggest thing. And that's the biggest thing that I think people resonate with. And that's the biggest thing that gives me confidence, because my laughter is genuine. I'm able to even laugh at myself, which I was never able to do. I mean, it takes confidence to laugh at yourself. And I prefer to do that because I can't be perfect if I'm always crushing myself when I make a mistake. it'll kill you. So I'm more accepting of the fact that I'm not perfect, and I make light of it. I just did a video on Marco Polo, really long, insightful video. And I go, and that's all my negative feedback for today. Like, what, where was that coming from? And I'm like, okay, I must have killed too many brain cells over the decades. Like, I don't know, but I kept it up there because, I mean, even you've taught me that, James. Like, just go do it. Like, who cares? Like, if you make a mistake, you're more human. Like, yeah. And that's kind of the philosophy I take.
Just a slight deviation. I just want to get clear on what your health results were as a result of going alcohol free. More specifically, weight loss, heart rate, blood pressure. Can you just give us a little indication as to what those things were before you enrolled in Project 90 and then, went alcohol free, and what they are today?
Well, I will not share my weight with you, but I lost 21 pounds inside of Project 90, and I've kept that all off, plus a couple of pounds. I went from borderline to high blood pressure, so well over on a regular basis, the recommended 140 over 90. I was on a regular basis, like screeching over that, and really worried about it, and not on medication. So that was dangerous. That changed inside Project 90 to crazy numbers. I mean, I go and I take my blood pressure every now and then, and it's down 127 to 78, and it's just easy to keep my blood pressure down. I go to the doctor's office, and given my age, which I'm not going to say on the broadcast, they're just impressed. Like, yeah, I don't do medications. I don't need blood pressure pills. And for my age, so it's pretty impressive. Yeah. So, yeah.
So just turning our attention to you being an enroller. So you were enrolled in the process of going alcohol free. You did your 90 days. You got amazing results. You decided to keep on going. And as of today, as we're recording this, we're celebrating you being 1 year alcohol free, which is incredible. Now, over the past, let's say 7 or 8 months, you've had an opportunity to enroll other people into our community, and more specifically into our Project 90 community, which is 90, I guess you'd call it, intense coaching and accountability days, lots of fun. And then there's some months on the back end where we give you some support as well. So it can be kind of, like a 4-month or an ongoing type of support program. What did you notice about how you changed when you were now the enroller, as opposed to for the months previous to that, you were continuing to be enrolled in this process? What did you notice about yourself? How did you grow? How did you shift?
I guess this gets back to the confidence thing, and just being able to inspire others through my journey, because I know I was very hungry for, those in front of me telling me that they succeeded, as I went through the process. And then you get to this point, and this happens pretty regularly inside Project 90. It's just not me. It's one of the reasons I wanted to work here. I'm not the only one that changed. I watched all of these people change with me. I watch all of these people I enroll change. Like, wow. Like, wow. It's just, I forgot the question, but all I can tell you is the funnest, I say this when I do the podcast, is the funnest part of my job is to watch people transform their lives in such a short period of time. It's really crazy when people apply themselves to this, and and are inspired by being in the community and learning. It's just crazy what can happen.
When you're on a call An enrollment call. So just for the benefit of the listener or the viewer, well, when people consider enrolling in Project 90, they have about a 45-minute phone call with someone, including Roseanne. Might be one of our other enrollment team, Russell or John. On rare occasions, it's me. I used to do all of them, but now I have former clients be part of our enrollment team. So when people are applying to be part of our community, you'll end up talking to Roseanne or someone else. So have you heard patterns of what people share with you on those calls? Like, what's been an interesting patterns that you've picked up on, like any similar stories, similar backgrounds? What are some of the patterns you've noticed when people share their stories with you?
Well, the most obvious pattern is that they've made the phone call because they realize this is probably a little bit more to deal with than they thought, and that they've probably been trying a few things for a while without success on their own. That's bar none, everybody's story. The second pattern is a concern over health. They've gotten to a point where they realize that the level of their drinking, I always kind of re-reference attractively packaged poison. How much of that are you putting in your body? Are there any, they realize there's probably not a lot of health benefits involved in their drinking. So they have a fear of their health. A lot of them see a decline in their productivity at work and in their sluggishness, motivation. Just most people will tell me, even if I always have this thing like, where do you think you're operating at on a scale of 1 to 10? And they're like, well, 9. And I go, yeah, okay, that's what your bosses think. Where do you think you're operating? And we usually get down to a 5 or a 6. So even a high performer will admit, like, I'm a great performer, but in terms of what I think I'm capable of, it's not all there, Most people, 95% of people are struggling with weight, even if it's 10 pounds. And then they struggle more with weight because they're not motivated to exercise. Some people can exercise through it and they see their slowdown, but I'm talking about this is the predominant thing. And many, many people recognize that there's an impact on their relationships, whether it's relationships at work, relationships with a spouse, making time for their children. Yeah.
Now, I've spoken to you on the phone and on Zoom calls after certain enrollment calls where someone has chosen not to enroll, and it seems like on occasion it takes a heavy toll on you. You've expressed that, yeah?
Yeah, it kills me. Yeah.
Share a little more about that, if you will.
Yeah, well, I don't want to cry. But yeah, I talk to people on the phone and I know they could use help, and I know that we have an answer for them. And they decide for whatever reason that the money they have in their bank account or, could get access to, or their health or their well-being or all those things I described play a lesser role than the money. And it just breaks my heart, because I tell people at the end of Project 90, when I talk to people that graduate, and I'm going to start adding this question to when I do a podcast interview, how do you feel about the investment? And some people will tell me, if I could have lost the weight alone, I would have paid you 10 times more. Like, if you would have told me, if I would have believed what could have happened, you could have charged me 10 times more. I would have found the money. And so it's it is so, it so affects me to not be able to articulate what's possible for their life. And maybe they don't believe it themselves. I think they believe that sometimes I even talk to people that they know this program can help, but they still have some kind of relationship with their finances that they can't get the cost benefit. And I'm like, most people can pay for it in a year. You've mentioned many a time the productivity increases. There's one person that just told me their business went up by near 100,000 in a short period of time. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, look at me. I was retired and and now I'm working and having fun. So yeah, things happen. And the other thing that's very, very difficult for me to articulate or express, I think they see it in me, but they don't maybe have the confidence to believe that they're capable of it, is this joy and this peace. I think I mentioned to you recently, James, I went to the doctor, and one of the greatest parts about being alcohol free is going to the doctor. And when they go, how many alcoholics drinks do you drink a week? And you go, none. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And you don't just have to explain it away. It's a crazy benefit. And they ask you, well, do you want to drink? I'm like, no, don't. Like, I'm good. And like, oh, your blood pressure's good too. And I had somebody test my cortisol levels and my adrenaline levels, which are stress related. And those are all normal. Whereas, my stress levels, and this is probably, I didn't mention at the beginning, but most people that call have severe anxiety, probably due to the fact that they're not getting as much done as they should. They know they could. They're not having the relationships they could. So, we're building up a lot of anxiety and cortisol and adrenaline, and not healthy, right? So I went to the doctor, and these things are all normal. And I'm like sitting there like a peacock going, yep, that's me. It's good to know that you've done that amount of good to your body, and a doctor recognizes it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you still take on a lot of the responsibility of someone saying no to joining our community? Do you feel
way too much, more than I should? Yes, more than I should. I want the magic pill, James. I want the magic secret of getting inside somebody's head and going, really, like, I want all the magic words. You know that. I always say, like, what could I have done different? What did I say different?
There was one instance, and we don't want to get into too specifics to protect the privacy of those concerned, but there was a family abroad, wasn't there? There was a mother and a daughter, and there was and the daughter wanted to get in, and there was a relationship with her mother. Like, maybe you could just share as much as you can share. Obviously, we're not going to name anyone, but just why did that, just maybe you can relay that story and why you feel that impacted you so much.
That was a situation where I had the husband and wife on the phone, and they were being really honest, actually honest for the first time with each other about the effects of drinking. They had a child. It was the husband's stepchild. And the husband had told me, this child of mine in this marriage has lost her father to alcoholism. I don't want her to lose her mother. And so we had talked about the program and the finances, and she really wanted in. And I had told her to to share it with, she said, I think I can get the money from my mother. And I encouraged her to go do that. And she said to me, my mother doesn't know I drink or doesn't understand this. And I just said, well, we don't want her to know because you're in the hospital or, something's happened to you. So it's probably good. But anyway, she told her mother, and her mother was devastated, and she was devastated. And so it devastated me. I just get really emotionally involved in all these stories. But, as I could reflect back, that was a good thing she had just shared with me how, as devastating as it was, she had shared with me after that it was really good that she had never had such an open conversation with her husband, and that she recognized that getting the secret out to her mother was important too. So yeah, I do get emotionally involved. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it happens. Yeah.
It's a year today that you've been alcohol free. So if we wind the clock back 13 months, let's say a month more than now, than a year, 13 months ago, if an angel came down and tapped you on the shoulders and said, in 13 months, you'll be enrolling all these people into a program that helps them get clear and change their relationships and lower their blood pressure and get healthy, and you'll be saving people's lives and you'll be affecting dozens, if not hundreds of people in a positive way. Would you have believed that angel?
I might have thought that angel was a hallucination. Yeah, that would have been impossible. Yeah. And that's what I try and, articulate to people. I can only articulate through my own personal story, which is why I like talking to people, because I can represent to them like, no, this is the truth. This is what happened to me. This is what's possible. And I was telling somebody today, I am an open book, right? And so somebody will come on. We have a platform that we talk to each other on, Marco Polo, and I can always one up everybody. I started drinking when I was 16. I started when I was 13. I used to drink this amount. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that too. Plus I added maybe a couple of glasses of wine. It's just, usually people can't top my my stories about doing embarrassing things or having regrets. I can always generally empathize with somebody else's plight with respect to drinking. I feel like, I have a lot of wisdom, is what I like to call it. Wisdom.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how our lives can take such interesting turns that we never possibly could have fathomed before? I mean, imagine going to show and tell at school, if you're a little 7-year-old girl, say, when I grow up, I want to be a fire person, or I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be, imagine going there and saying, when I grow up, I want to help adults to quit drinking and change their lives. It just seems so preposterous, doesn't it? But yet here you are. Not only have you transformed your own life, but you have transformed dozens of people's lives, and not just those people, but the people in their lives, because it's not just them who are being influenced and transformed. It's their children, it's their colleagues, it's their bosses, it's their friends, it's their acquaintances. They're all being transformed because of their transformation.
Yeah, I just read somewhere in a book recently that the power of one positive or negative change and the ripple effect that can have, like throughout the world, if you think about it, like one tiny thing, like you just said, one life. And I may, I don't know what my kids will do with it now, but who knows what they'll feel about it in the future. But like you said, I know I'm having some influence, or at least I give people hope. Like, here's what it looks like a few months down the road. Here's what I felt like during months 4 to 6. And they're like, oh, okay. And like you said, their families are being changed. Their children have better lives. They have more clarity. They're operating better at work. They're providing better customer service. I talked to, well, especially real estate people. You like the real estate stories too, because it's very trackable, right? People can say, like, more clarity, think better, more energy. So that means I can choose a client wisely. You know what I mean? There are clients that suck up your time, and there are clients that are very positive to work. So they choose the right clients to work with. They're more efficient. They're enjoying their jobs better, which means they're getting more business. Everybody wants to work with a happy person, right? And if I just look at me, like, wah, 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 like sitting on the couch drinking versus out there, like, laughing, that's positive energy, and everybody wants to be around people with positive energy. And that's what I've noticed. That's just given me confidence, right? It's like, oh, here was this person. Hey, I think they like me. I know that sounds stupid, but for me, I came from such a low place. It was, that is a statement I actually used to make, or do make, like, oh, they like me.
So just a couple of final questions here. What's dating life like now that you're alcohol free? We're not allowed to reveal your age, of course, but I'm just curious, what's after a 30-year marriage and getting back out there being alcohol free? What's that been like?
That has been really weird. First of all, having more confidence gives me more decision-making power, and knowing what I want and what I don't want, and not settling, which is good. Having more confidence means that I'm more happy with where I am and what I'm doing. And so that can define the types of people I meet. But I don't know, recently I had my first date. Was it my first date? No, second date. I don't date as much. One, because of COVID. Two, I live in Yuma. And so, but I have had 2 dates. One was a man who drank more than, I don't mind somebody that drinks. I prefer to have a drinking partner that can have a drink here and there, and, not have it be a big deal. It's not a big deal for me. But he ended up on our dates drinking, 3 and 4 drinks a night, and every time I saw him. So that really wasn't a good match. But then I dated somebody who, unfortunately, I found out was still married. So that didn't last long. But for the short period it did last, it was cool because he liked the fact that I didn't drink. It took, like, instead of drinking and getting the buzz and, like, doing physical things that you shouldn't do until you know somebody better, it's like 6 dates. And then we had our first kiss, and it was like, oh, I maybe that's too much information, but it is. When you drink since you're 13, you don't know what it's like to go on a date without alcohol. And I had to figure that out. It's a different thing. But I liked it because it was conscious decisions and thought processes, and, like you said, clarity about decisions, and not regret about what did I do, what did I say, or just getting physically involved for the wrong reasons, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's good, and it's a positive outlook.
Wonderful. Well, Roseanne, thank you so much for sharing your story, your 1-year alcohol-free journey. Is there anything in particular that you feel people should know about stepping into the unknown of living an alcohol-free life? Now, just to be clear, you've chosen to remain alcohol-free for a year. It doesn't mean that everyone needs to quit forever. It doesn't mean everyone needs to quit for a year either. People have different desires or intentions around their drinking. it seems like living an alcohol-free lifestyle is working very effectively for you. But is there some kind of lasting overall message that you feel someone who's pondering this lifestyle should hear that might inspire them to take action?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, James. A lot of people, as an enrollment coach, and even my own story, I had no idea what 90 days looked like alcohol-free, and I had no intention really, or couldn't even comprehend stopping for any length of time beyond 90. I just like, what does it look at 90, right? And at 90, the gains were so great, and that's why I like the 90-day thing. But you can look back and you're like, well, what are the gains here? I mean, a lot of people, they still can't imagine a life without drinking, but are you willing to look at the next 90? Hell yeah. You know what I mean? It's just, there's a process, and then you just keep, and I think, James, you're the physical specimen of not drinking for a long period of time, right? You're healthy and happy and successful. And, so the more you gain, and the more you reflect on why you wanted to quit, that's the thing, the complacency and forgetting about where you were. To me, that's for me. But it's just worth trying, right? Just see how you feel at 90 days is what I say. I don't think you get it at 30. I think you get a lot at 30. But I think you get a lot more at 60 and a lot more at 90, I guess is what I can say. So give it a shot, 30 days at a time.
Yeah, thank you. And if you'd like to speak with Roseanne, then you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule and you can book a call. It will be with Roseanne, or it might be with one of our other, enrollment team members, John or Roseanne, or you're Roseanne, John or Russell, I should say, or David. Or if you're on a mobile phone in the US, if you text me at the number 44222 and you just send me the word Project 90, that's PROJECT 90, I'll text you back a link to the schedule, to the calendar, and you can just book a time, and you might get an opportunity to speak with Roseanne directly, or one of our other enrollment team members. Roseanne, congratulations again. On a personal note, thank you so much for being such a positive influence in our community. Thank you for inspiring people to take action. And then once they've taken action and they're inside of our community, thank you for always supporting people. Sometimes people get a little wobbly along the way and they have a bit of self-doubt, or some things come up. But you're always one of the first, if not the first, people to get in there and really support them, encourage them to lean back into the community. So thank you for taking a stand, or making a stand for people's progress and for people's lives, because you truly are an inspiration to them, and especially to me as the owner and founder of the business. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a rewarding thing that I have engaged in, so I enjoy it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the Alcohol Free Lifestyle podcast. I want to load you up with some free stuff right now. So if you want to go to jamesswanwick.com/guide, I will send you my Quit Alcohol Guide, which has helped six-figure entrepreneurs and top professionals reduce or quit drinking. You can also text the word QUIT GUIDE to the number 44222 if you're in the US, of course. It doesn't really work anywhere outside of the US. But if you're in the US on your mobile phone and you'd like that guide, text the word QUIT GUIDE to the number 44222, or you can go to jamesswanwick.com/guide. If you'd like to schedule a free 15-minute call with one of my top coaches, just an exploratory call to see if or how we can help you, then you can go to jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90 to the number 44222 if you're listening in the US on a mobile phone. That's jamesswanwick.com/schedule, or you can text the word Project 90, that's one word, Project 90, to the number 44222. Feel free to send me a direct message over on my Instagram account, which is @JamesSwanwick. You can also watch video episodes of this podcast and a series of other educational videos on my YouTube channel, which is James Swanwick 1, or you can direct message me on Facebook @James Swanwick Official. And finally, a request. Would you please now write a short review of the podcast inside of the Apple Podcast app on your phone or on iTunes on your desktop computer? Would you please give the show 5 stars and write a quick 1 or 2 sentence review? This will help the show get in front of even more listeners, potentially transforming someone's life. You can rate and review the show inside of your Apple Podcast app on your phone or over on iTunes on your desktop. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you next time.